Hey guys, so just want to make a video about the pre-turn. And that's for shot put and discus throwers. And for those of you who don't know what a pre-turn is, this is a pre-turn. So I'm talking about a pre-turn. Your basically whole right hip into the middle. So basically, when you do this, as you notice here, we have Tom Walsh, and on the bottom is Ryan Krauser. So Tom Walsh pre-turns and Krauser does not. Let me zoom out so I can actually get lines. Alright, so let me back that up. So the pre-turn, basically the end product is this. So it's basically the right foot, if you're a right-handed thrower, in the middle, is pointed towards the back of the ring. So basically you pre-turn your hips in the air. Alright? Whereas Ryan Krauser, he gets here, and he does not pre-turn, so his right foot is facing that way instead of that way. All right. So there are pros and cons to this. Is not a right or wrong way because both of them obviously throw really far. All right. So it works either way. You see a lot more discus throwers, especially female discus throwers, do pre-turns, and I'll explain why in a minute. But you do see a lot of men pre-turn. Probably the best discus thrower ever to pre-turn is probably Lars Riedel. He probably has the best pre-turn ever, and it's insane. And for like females, it'd be like Sandra Perkovic, something like that. But if you want to look at like the best pre-turn, it's gonna be Lars Riedel in my opinion. For shot put, I think that Tom Walsh does the best pre-turn for shot put. So I'm just gonna do shot put because it's a lot easier. These are much more high quality videos than like Lars Riedel and some other discus throwers that I like. So it's just easier to see for you guys' benefit. So let's get into it. So first, let's go over why do a pre-turn. So the reason you would do a pre-turn is to get your hips turn quicker into the middle. So you see here, because he does this pre-turn, his right foot is there, but his left foot is passing his right foot. So what that does is he gets touched down. He touches down faster. Now, obviously, these are two training throws, so these aren't the most technically, like, see, he over-rotates a little here, and doesn't get a really nice sprint, and he opens a little in the bucket. There are nicer technical videos of Tom Walsh, but I just picked this because, I didn't want to just search through a bunch of videos, and I think it was just fair for just see two training throws. So this is from 2019, and this is from around this year, I think. So 2019 for Walsh, and this year he's doing the slide in this, so it had to be the past 2 years. So, yeah, I think it was last year. I forget. It doesn't really matter. Because I mean, Krauser's really never done a pre-turn. So I believe the reason why Krauser does not do a pre-turn is because he's 6'7" and Walsh is like 6'1" or something, like 6'2" maybe. So like because Krauser's 6'7", it would slow him down to do a pre-turn in the middle. So if you're really tall, and this is why a lot of discus throwers tend to do a pre-turn because the circle is 8 foot in discus instead of 7 foot, like in shot put. So it's more advantageous for a taller person to do, to not do a pre-turn because it allows them to get the right foot down faster and not slow down. Whereas someone who is like Tom Walsh, who's kind of on the shorter end. Well, actually, he's more of the normal spectrum. Most rotational shot putters that are really good are actually not that tall, compared to like gliders and Krauser and like Cantwell and stuff. A lot of them are like 6'1", like Kovacs and Reese and Adam Nelson and Tom Walsh are like between like 5'10" and like 6'1" maybe. All right, so a lot more of those guys pre-turn in the middle. I forget. Kovacs kind of does a little pre-turn, but not that much. It's so apparent in Walsh's technique, so that's why I'm using Walsh. But so the reason why to get back to it, the reason why you would do a pre-turn is to just get your hips quicker into the throw and to land more in this position quicker and to get your hips sooner into the throw and land a little more and just get everything down quicker. So you just spend less time on the ground and more and you just get into the throw sooner. All right? So whereas if you don't do a pre-turn, so he lands here, you can work the ground a lot longer. It does take longer for your hips to and your feet to get down, but the advantageous part of this is that you can work the ground longer and build more power longer, because you're just staying grounded longer. So it's like it's a give and take. It depends. It's entirely a personal thing, honestly, in my opinion. Well, I shouldn't say it's different person to person. Like if Walsh tried to throw like Ryan Krauser, I don't think he would throw as far as he does. In the same inverse with Krauser, I don't think Krauser would throw very far if he tried to throw like Tom Walsh. It's just different techniques. You just got to find what works for you. All right? So, like the cons of the pre-turn is, one, if you're not good at it, it can be very inconsistent. And if you're not patient with the upper body when you do a pre-turn, you can tend to land super open like he does. And super in the bucket like he does on this throw. Now, still, this throw probably went like 22 meters, so it doesn't even, in the grand scheme of things, but that's just because he's a beast. But, I mean, this isn't, like, I don't think I'm offending anybody by saying this isn't the most technically sound throw by Tom Walsh. And you can also see that Tom Walsh is less inconsistent than Ryan Krauser. Now, in discus, if you do a pre-turn, it's a lot easier to be consistent just because it doesn't have to happen as quick because because the circle's bigger and the discus in compared to shot put is just happens a lot slower because it just takes longer to actually finish a discus than a shot put because the discus is away from you compared to the shot put just being on your neck. So, it just happens slower. And, it's just a bigger ring, too. Like, the circle's a lot bigger as well in discus, so the throw just happens slower. Now, it still happens super fast, for elite throwers. So, that's something to keep in mind as well. And I'm not saying in discus either that you do have to pre-turn. It's just that a lot of people do. It's just a lot more common to do. In discus than in shot put, but shot putters do have success with it as well, obviously, like Tom Walsh here. I forget if Adam Nelson did a pre-turn. I'm pretty sure, if memory serves me right, he did, but I could be wrong. And I know I'm naming like two very quirky throwers that do a pre-turn because, Tom Walsh and Adam Nelson are not very good technical models because they do a lot of quirky stuff that works for them. Not saying it's bad, but it's just meant for them. And I don't think a lot of people should try and throw like Adam Nelson. Maybe a little more like Tom Walsh because he's a little more conventional compared to Adam Nelson, but that's not really saying much. I think like the best technical model for like any basic like shot putter that's like below like 6'4" is probably Kovacs, Joe Kovacs. So. Because he just does things super basic and hits positions consistently. He hits very effective positions, and everything just works super well and efficiently. And, he's also the second furthest thrower ever. I do think that Ryan Krauser is a technical model. There are certain things that he does because to get over the fact that he's 6'7". So, like, he doesn't really, like, sprint out the back, really. Because, if he did... like he would just be out of the ring because he's just so tall. So, I do believe if you're like 6'5", and up, I do think Ryan Crouser is a beautiful technical model. And I do think there are pieces of Ryan Crouser's technique that we can take. Like, I believe the finish for Ryan Crouser probably has the best finish ever. And it's one of the main things why he throws so far and so consistently. And just, so, yeah, but we're getting off track, as I usually do in these videos, because I'm a big nerd. Big throwing nerd. So, yeah. Let's get back to it. So, what was I saying? Oh, yes. So, another con, so the cons for the pre-turn. One, like I said, it's not super inconsistent, but if you're not good at it, it will be. Two, it can lead to an unstable position if you're not good at it in the middle, and can lead to easy hip break in the middle. So just be aware of that. Three, if you do not have a patient upper body, and you like to really yank your left side, I don't think a pre-turn is a good idea for you. Because it basically speeds everything up and just makes the throw happen a lot quicker. So with this style, with Ryan Crouser's style, so a no pre-turn, it's a lot easier to be patient through positions and be a lot slower. A pre-turn, you have to be super fast in the ring for it to work, because, you got to turn in midair. So you got to actually turn your right hip in midair. So it's not just turning the right foot. You see how when Walsh does this. So let's zoom in. His right butt cheek, when his right foot lands, his right butt cheek is facing the sector. All right. When you look at Crouser, his right butt cheek is facing that way. That's the difference here. All right. So that's a pre-turn. If you just turn your right foot, your hip can still be behind you. So if you do a pre-turn, you want to think this right butt cheek has to face the sector. So that just gets you turned faster, and it prevents your hip from breaking in the middle. And what I mean by your hip breaking is, you see how he's let me recenter this. You see how he's stacked, how the ball's over his right side, like his right leg. That's a bad line. Oh my god. Okay, I can't draw a line, but you get the idea. Oh my god, can I draw a line? Yeah, that's close enough. You see how the ball is basically under his right side. So this is, if you want to do a pre-turn, this is the position you gotta hit. All right. Well, you don't gotta hit, but it's ideal. You want the ball to be under. Just like when you're here, the ball's actually not quite under. Well, no, the ball is. The ball is. Let's see. The ball's here. More like here. So it's not quite as stacked, but also the thing is, when you don't land pre-turned, it's a lot easier to get a wrap, and a lot easier to stay back on the shot put compared to here. But that's also the whole point, is because the hips get into the throw quicker. So when Tom's left foot hits the front, his hip is facing that way. When Crouser's left foot hits, well, okay, I guess no, that's a bad. I don't know what I'm saying up there, because I mean, obviously, just cut that out. I don't know why. Oh, whatever. I'm tired. Sorry, guys. I don't even know how to cut a video. I'm just doing this off the dome. So, no script. I should probably use scripts for these videos. Instead, it'd probably prevent me from rambling, but I'm also doing these videos because I'm bored, mainly. So, yeah. I don't really put too much effort into them, as you guys can probably tell, for like the 5 people who watch my videos. So yeah. And also, it's raining. It's like pouring where I live right now, so I'm sorry if there's a bunch of rain noise in the background. I hope my phone isn't good enough to actually pick up that noise, but if it's hard for me to hear, then I'll just redo this video at a later date. So I do apologize for that. But let's get back to it. So, I mean, there are a lot more cons to a pre-turn, but I mean, it's a stylistic thing. I do think there are pros to a pre-turn, obviously, which is why people do them. One, it just makes the throw happen quicker. Two, if you are fast enough to actually do it and technically sound enough to do it, I still believe it does produce further throws. Now, obviously, Krauser throws further than Walsh, but you also have to remember, they're two different people, two different athletic capabilities, and like just because Krauser throws further does not mean that Tom Walsh that it's wrong to do a pre-turn necessarily. All right, because I mean, you look at some of the best throwers in history, they do pre-turns. And just because the best person doesn't do it doesn't mean it's a bad thing. All right? So it's more of what type of athlete you are. So you tend to see shot putters when they do a pre-turn, they're on the shorter side. Um like I said, like between like 5'10" and like 6'3" maybe is like the tallest I've seen someone do a pre-turn in shot put. Now obviously like in discus, I mean, you can do a pre-turn basically any height. Unless you're like 7 feet tall, then maybe not. But if you're like 6'9" or some like 6'9" and under, like you can do a pre-turn. And the shorter you are, the easier it is to do a pre-turn, just because you have more time to actually work the circle, if that makes sense. Just because like I said with Krauser, because he's 6'7", it'd be very hard for him to do a pre-turn, and it probably wouldn't be good for him because it would just slow him down. Whereas someone like Tom Walsh, who is not as tall, he can actually sprint, and because he can sprint super hard, he has time to do a pre-turn. All right, so yeah, and perhaps this throw from Tom Walsh isn't the greatest example. Obviously, if you want to see like the best example of his better throws, look at his 22-meter 90 throw from Doha in 2019, or just a plethora of other 22-meter throws. I don't know how far this throw went at all. I'm assuming this one from Krauser went like 22, just because every throw of him just goes like 22 because he's running Krauser. So yeah. So, oh yeah, I didn't go over the cons of Krauser. So not pre-turning. So the cons of there's not very many. I do think there are some. One, if you are short and not pre-turning, I do think it slows you down. Especially if you do not have very good ground force reaction time. I do think it just slows you down. Two, it's just a lot harder to sprint because your right foot will just land sooner. So you just gotta you just gotta have way better timing. With a pre-turn, you can make a little more of a timing mistake and still throw really far, just because the throw just happens quicker, so you don't have to have as perfect as timing. You do have to still have amazing timing, just to throw far. But you gotta really time the sprint better when you don't do a pre-turn. Excuse me. So that's something to keep in mind as well. And yeah, other than that, I mean, there aren't really too many cons, honestly, to not pre-turning. The pre-turn is definitely a more risky approach to throwing, but it's not a wrong way to do things. It's just, well, and again, like this Walsh's example is very extreme. I'm just using Walsh as a example. So I can't think of another shot putter off the top of my head that does a pre-turn. But I mean, there are more conventional shot putters. I forget if Thomas Stanek does a pre-turn. I think Zane Weir does or Fabrio. I think Zane Weir does a pre-turn. I forget. But other shot putters do pre-turns. I just can't think of one off the top of my head. I think Reese Hoffa actually might have done a pre-turn. I forget though. But you know, you guys can do your own research. You have access to YouTube, so you can do that. Um, so I'm just using Tom Walsh again as an example, just because it's super evident that he does a pre-turn compared to Ryan Krauser. These could not be two more different styles of throwing. So that's mainly why I chose them, so you can see a blatant difference in between them, in the way that they move. So, yeah, that's just something to keep in mind. But other than that, yeah. So to sum up, I think the pre-turn is a good thing, especially for smaller people. And also, I forgot to mention another pro of the pre-turn is that if you're on the weaker side of throwing and you rely a lot more on momentum and speed to kind of throw, I do think the pre-turn is a lot better than this style. You tend to see, well, not pre-turning. Just because it allows you to really use your speed and momentum. Because say if Tom Walsh were to move, was to just ground here in his sprint, that would slow him so, like, way down. And he would lose the effect of coming out the back super fast. See, the only reason he can get away with going out the back super fast and being super aggressive with his left arm is because he does a pre-turn. So he can manage that energy that he brings into the middle and front of the ring. Whereas Krauser, as people who have ever watched Ryan Krauser, which if you haven't, I don't know where you've been. But if you watch Ryan Krauser, just look. Let me just back these up. Just notice the different. Just notice the difference in speed between them. Now, granted, these are both training throws, and training throws can be taken at different speeds. Krauser tends to throw a lot more methodically in practice, but he tends to throw way more methodically. I mean, Tom Walsh is like one of the fastest throwers ever. It's him and Kovacs, but I think Walsh is way faster in the ring compared to Kovacs. Walsh is probably the fastest shot putter I've ever seen in my life. And it's a good thing. Because he doesn't blow through positions. Because normally when you see throwers this fast, they blow through positions and they don't actually get energy into the shot put, and they just spin around in a circle. So, but again, if you turn out the back super fast and you don't do a pre-turn, that's just going to slow you down, because it's just going to get you into it's going to make your right foot land sooner, and it's just going to take more time to work the ground. So you tend to see people that go out the back faster do a pre-turn compared to someone who goes slower. Now, obviously, you can do a pre-turn and go a little slow out the back, but that's more of like a training thing. So you just have to find your training speed for this. And again, I'm also not saying do a pre-turn, because it is a very high-level thing to do. People will probably think it's very easy. It's not. It takes years to master, unless it took years for me to, not saying I mastered it, but it took years for me to learn how to do it correctly. But I'm also a big dummy, so maybe someone who's actually athletic and actually has a brain can actually do it pretty fast. Probably it's just also a lot harder to do with a shot put. As you know, it's a lot easier to drill stuff, as everyone knows, without an implement in your hand compared to having an implement in your hand. So, it's different. So I would recommend first drilling it. I'd drill both styles, see which one works for you, which one feels easier to you. And also if something just comes naturally to you, like no matter which style, like if you just naturally pre-turn and naturally do this, work with either. But also, listen to your coach and all that jazz. But if you don't have a coach, just experiment. What's life without a little experimentation? So yeah, you just gotta find what works for you. You know, both these throwers have had amazing success. Obviously, you know, one's better than the other. Even though I still like watching Tom Walsh more than Ryan Krauser, just because I just like watching Tom Walsh. Just like I don't know, Reese Hoffa is my favorite shot putter to watch ever. I don't know why. I know there are better shot putters than him. It's just something about the way he throws I like. It's just very satisfying when he hits a finish. Um, but yeah, you know, that's just I'm just weird. But you know, yeah. Oh my god, this video is almost 26 minutes, or it probably will be. Yeah, but I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I hope you guys learned something. I hope you guys, you know, learn the pros and cons. I don't think the pre-turns are very, you know, talked about subject in the throwing world, because you know people will just say don't do it, or people will say like swear by it, and I'm not on either side of the camp. I say just like every time we see a technical point, it's an individualistic thing. Now, obviously, there are some things that I believe almost every thrower should do, unless you get a special case, like sweep wide out the back, get over the left foot out the back, land shoulders when your left foot grounds in the front, that your shoulders need to be somewhat back. You know, you can't pull this left side, and you gotta stay on the ground a long time and stay on the implement a long time, and you know, get over the toe board or get over your block leg. You gotta have a block. But I mean, people have had success not getting over the left. People have had success with very short blocks. People have had success with a pre-turn or not doing a pre-turn. So it's just you know a give and take. And honestly, the more athletic and the stronger you are, the more you can get away with stuff. I'm not gonna lie. Like for me, for example, I'm a little weakling, but if I could squat like 700 pounds and bench like 500 pounds, I would definitely throw a lot further. As just because you know that's a lot stronger than what I am now, but also you know I could get away with some technical things, especially if I was you know actually athletic, um, and like actually explosive. So, you know you can get away with certain stuff here, and I do believe that to do a pre-turn, you do have to be a lot faster because it, you know, doing a pre-turn just makes the throw happen faster. But to actually execute a pre-turn correctly, you have to be fast through the ring. But you just have to also be a lot more technically sound. Otherwise, it can really end badly, and you will not throw far, and you'll just and you know you have to be able to have two different speeds between your upper and lower body, just like here, but just like in every throw, you know, the lower body always will go faster than the upper body on a good throw. Unless it's hammer, then that's a little different than, you know, that's just a completely, I'm just talking about shot put disc. And I guess javelin too. Hammer's just a completely different animal that I'm not even going to go over in this video. Um, but yeah, so I hope you guys learned something and saw the disadvantages and advantages of both throwing styles. And if you guys want to take away anything from this video, is that there's no really right or wrong way to throw. There's only a right and wrong way to throw for you. So yeah, I don't believe that either of these guys do anything wrong, like, because obviously at the end of the day, if you throw far but you look ugly or look pretty doing it, it doesn't matter. What matter, you know, it's not a beauty contest throwing, you know, it's, you know, throwing something far. So if you throw it far, then keep doing what you're doing, you know? So yeah, that's my little soliloquy on this subject, and I hope you guys learned something. Let me know if you have questions in the comments, and if you want me to do a technical video on something else. And yeah, have a good day.